Hello there everybody, Dev here, the Rogue Deck Chronicles, and this week I want to showcase two new cards coming out of the Chaos Rising format. The first one is Gourgeist EX. This is going to be the primary attacker of the deck. Gourgeist EX is a Stage 1 Psychic-type Pokemon, evolves from Pumpkaboo, and it has 2 attacks. We could utilize both, but this deck we are focusing on the horrifying Rondo attack. For a single Psychic Energy, it is 30 and then does 50 more damage for each one of your bench Pokemon that have any damage counters on. So with a full bench, fully damaged, we can do 280 damage for a single Psychic Energy. Now, it does have a secondary attack of Ghostly Touch. It does 140, and it discards a random card from your opponent's hand for 2 Psychic Energy. So that could be something that we could position ourselves in a match that maybe our opponent put themselves to a low hand size, and we can't do one shot with Horrifying Rondo anyway. So with the 2-shot, we can just disrupt their hand just a little bit more. The other card from Chaos Rising that we're putting in with the Gourgeist is the Trevenant and Phantump combination. So we'll go over the Trevenant first because that would be the attacker ideally toward the end, mid to end match of the situations here. So it is a Stage 1 Psychic-type Pokemon, 130 HP, evolves from Phantump. The Phantump is important, so we'll talk about that in a second. Has 2 attacks. First one is Cursed Roots, single Psychic Energy, 30 damage. During your opponent's next turn, energy cannot be attached from your opponent's hand to the defending Pokemon, so you can stall them and slow them down. That is honestly really great if they have something in the active that needs a attachment and has a high retreat cost, or they just usually need to figure out a way to mess with their active spot and they can't utilize that attachment on the bench to the best efficiency. And then secondly, for 2 Psychic Energy, it has Overwhelming Pain, 60 plus, and then does 10 more for each damage counter on all of your opponent's active Pokemon, all your opponent's Pokemon, not just the active. So that can stack and grow really quickly. So we'll talk about how that can happen in a second. But I want to talk about this Phantump from Chaos Rising as well, because it has the ability Spiteful Evolution. Once during your turn, you may use this ability. Choose a card in your hand, so the Trevenant has to be in your hand, that evolves from this Pokemon and evolve it onto the Pokemon. If you do, put 2 damage counters on this Pokemon. You can't use this ability during your first turn, but you can use it after the first turn to evolve a Phantump to a Trevenant on the same turn that has been played into play. So that is 2 damage counters that goes on to Trevenant that can power up Gourgeist. So we can put in a situation where we can power up Gourgeist by evolving Phantumps really quickly. Now, in terms of other ways of putting damage counters that is where we have Risky Ruins. Whenever you put a basic non-darkness Pokemon into play, put 2 damage counters onto that Pokemon, both ours and our opponents. So for us, the Risky Ruins powers up Gourgeist. But for us as well is when our opponents play into that Risky Ruins, if they don't bump that, they do build up their bench, we're powering up Trevenant slowly but surely. So that's why I say Trevenant can be an attacker mid to late game, because our opponent's going to have so much damage on its board. Because honestly, Gourgeist hitting for 280 can knock out most things, but there's certain things they can't knock out. But because of Lillie's Clefairy, we don't have to worry about not one-hit KOing Dragapult or Lucario, because Lucario is naturally weak to Psychic, but Lillie's Clefairy will make Dragapult a one-shot, it will make Raging Bolt a one-shot, but we still have high HP Mega Evolution decks like Starmie and otherwise, so we do need to kind of prepare for Trevenant to be that end game kind of cleanup if Gourgeist can't do what it's supposed to do. Now, we do run a 3-3 line of the Dunsparce with Run, Ray, Draw, and we also add 1 Dudunsparce EX with that Tenacious Tail, as we talked about, single energy. That's all this deck is a lot of low energy attackers. And we can take advantage of board states where our opponents go super heavy on EX Pokemon. So the Dunsparce EX can be this alternate attacker that people don't see, because they are always worried about us doing the runaway draw. Now, in terms of supporters, we're running 4 Lillie. If you're not running 4 Lillie, why are you not? 2 Hilda, because we are an evolution deck. 1 Colress Tenacity, allows us to grab the Stadium when we need it, and an energy card. And then 3 Boss's Orders, sorry, I've been playing around with this list so long. But 3 Boss's Orders allow us to gust up and take KOs when we need to. Now, in terms of just overall support, We have 3 Buddy-Buddy, 3 Ultra Ball, 4 Poké Pad. So that is how we get our Pokemon out and search our Pokemon. 2 rescues, or 2 Night Stretchers for recovery. 2 Wondrous Patches for, again, energy recovery to be able to power up multiple attackers, or power up one of the two energy attacks on either the Trevenant or the Gourgeist out of nowhere. And then our A-Spec is Unfair Stamp. We are expecting to get KO'd, be able to, again, Unfair Stamp just turns momentums into decks and into matchups, and it's just, you get that in the middle of the match, especially after they take 2 prizes, and you're able just to be able to recover and take over. That pivot of momentum is important. We run 2 Air Balloon to get any one of these Pokemon out of the active that we don't want in the active, and then energy, we're running a 4-4 split of Basic Psychic and Telepathic Psychic. Telepathic Psychic allows us to accelerate our Pokemon into the bench from the energy attachment turn, and it works very well with Risky Ruins. So that being said, guys, as always, this list will be in the description of the video. And before we go, just want to ask one thing, is have you liked the video or have you subscribed to the channel? Both of those things take not even 5 seconds to do. Just look underneath to see if either one of those are done. And after you do that, just sit back and watch the matchups. I will say I'm not too optimistic on how the Gourgeist kind of fits in the overall meta. I think this is a fun kind of quirky deck, but with its concept of putting damage onto the bench, it does open itself up to a lot of the bench sniper decks. Mega Starmie comes to mind, Dragon Ball comes to mind, and because of how we built this list, we don't have a way to kind of protect that. We don't have the Shamans, we don't have the Psyducks, so we are opening ourselves up to a lot of risk with this list, but I think honestly it's the only real way we can really get to work efficiently. But if you disagree with me on that, let me know in the comments. I've been kind of building this out for about a week now, and this is the best 60 that I felt and could figure out. And if you guys can definitely let me know other 60s, that would be great, because honestly it runs my favorite Pokemon, Trevenant, but it has 2 really interesting combinations from Chaos Rising that we wanted to showcase. With all that being said, guys, let's jump onto the ladder and see how we do. Alright, so we're going first this match, which is great. So I'm just going to put the Pumpkaboo and just kind of see what happens. Ideally, I would love to be able to top deck a Risky Ruins before putting any more Pokemon into play. But we are facing off against some... That doesn't tell us much. And we top deck the Risky Ruins. Awesome. So let's get set up. We have the Telepathic. We are going to grab 1 more of each of those. Let's grab a Poké Pad, and we'll grab a Dunsparce here, or a Dunsparce, sorry. We have the Dunsparce EX in hand, but I really don't know about what I want to do with it next turn. So we're going to end turn. We have 4 damage Pokemon on the bench already, so we just need to get an evolution to go off and running. And I grab the Hilda. We see the Latias, so I'm curious on what deck this could be, which is why the Dudunsparce EX could be a thing, because it's 60 times all the EXs, and there's already 120 damage on the board. So if they put more EXs into play, that could be a alternate attacker closer for this matchup. So it's a Mega Starmie variant. Interesting. We can't one-shot a Mega Starmie, just pure attack. But they just hold it in the hand and move on. That's interesting. Okay. I think with this is what we're going to do. We're just going to use the other Telepathic. I'm going to put the Clefairy down. Yes, that could be a liability, but it also, again, another potential alternate attacker here. So let's grab a Lillie. Let's get 8. And we're missing our Phantump right now. Or our Gourgeist right now. But we're going to do a runaway draw here and grab 3 more. And we're just missing this turn. We're just gonna Stampede, poke for 20, and then see what man, missing that Gourgeist. We would have got their Pheasantipity knocked out. But we have a boss in hand, so if they try to put down a Staryu, I think we're going to start targeting down easier targets. And then they're putting Buddy-Buddy, which will power up a Trevenant, because they're just going to have a whole bunch of damage sitting on their board. Now, for Trevenant to really matter, it has to build a lot, which potentially is an issue. But we see this Staryu right there. They have a Monkey Dory, but they can't Monkey Dory and power up this Staryu this turn. If they have the Darkness Energy, that would make the most sense. They got the Darkness Energy. Okay. Do we take down the Monkey Dory? Or do we take down the Staryu? I think we take down the Staryu and just let the pinging happen. Because ideally we just start evolving and we kind of get around our own damage. Because I really think the Staryu here, which would turn into a Mega Starmie, is the biggest threat. But we have to do a double evolve this turn. We're item locked, which doesn't really hurt us. So it's Hilda. We only have one Gourgeist in the entire deck. Wow, okay, that would explain why we're missing pieces here. Let me look at my board here. Alright, I think I have a play here to kind of help elongate as much as we can. Not necessarily a fan that I had to Hilda over boss this turn, but the issue is now is they can pick apart any one of these guys. So the safest attachment was going to be that Clefairy, because they're gonna jet below, and they're gonna put 50 on something, which is unfortunate. There's the other Gourgeist. So if they don't target down the Pumpkaboo, we're fine. I don't know if they identify. I mean, clearly we have a Gourgeist in the active, so I think they're going to identify this Pumpkaboo is the biggest threat to their board state, and they're just going to move like what they can do this turn. They're going to move 20 off one of their Pokemon to over here. If I was them, I would move it off to Starmie personally. And this is just a result of, unfortunately, bad prizing, to be 100% honest with you. If we get a draw, like a really good aggressive draw next turn, yep, we'll be fine. They're Hilda. I know they have a Starmie in hand, so what are they going to be grabbing with this Hilda? Probably Dusclops for next turn. No, they're grabbing a Starmie and a Neo Upper. Well, we knew that was coming. That's fine. Unfortunately, we don't one-shot the Starmie even with a perfect board state. We only do 280. So there's always that 50 that kind of lingers. This version of the deck doesn't do much. Why did they... Oh, they're doing Nebula Beam. They're going to go for not a knockout and not touching the bench. Oh man, they got lucky that we top decked that Unfair Stamp. Because if they would have done something to the bench... So 20 plus everything. So 20 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 200. I'm not really a fan of like our options here. Because if I boss, I can take prizes And that puts me down to 3. I think that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to kind of go around the Starmie for a turn here and kind of force them on popping that. And then we're going to take the 280. Really what it is also is we also did just move a whole bunch of damage off their board. So the Monkey Dory long term isn't as dangerous. We got a Dunsparce for next turn. If they take a knockout this turn, we can Unfair Stamp Dunsparce. We can just kind of steamroll from a momentum play here. So they have the Legacy Energy, so that's only a 2-prizer, which kind of re-justifies why I wanted to just take out of the other pieces, like the other 2-prize support mons on the bench. So they play Legacy, not Neo Upper, which makes sense with JetBlow being a single energy. And then they're taking out that damage this turn, taking 2 prizes. This is a 3-prize turn for them, effectively. And then I'll put this Gourgeist up. That's fine. It has the balloon for retreat. So this is a very, very tough position that our opponents put it in. They're playing this great. We stumbled a little bit, and then they have a second Monkey Dory, which scares me a little bit, just because purely for the fact they're going to be able to move a whole bunch of damage now. And part of me, if we can get another boss, how many bosses have we played? We played 1 boss. If we can get the other boss from either the Dunsparce Unfair Stamp combo, I think that would be better. Yeah, see, they knock out that Dunsparce, which makes me feel like I shouldn't put this down, because then it's just a free target. With Phantump, at least I can try to evolve from hand. Yeah, let's do that. Let's Unfair Stamp and kind of see what we can reset. We got a Telepathic, which puts something on the bench, which would be fine. Let's get rid of these Risky Ruins. It doesn't look like they're gonna bump the stadium. Oh, because right now we're doing 230. I mean, we're not knocking anything out this turn. That's the mathematical problem. And I think our opponent has... You know what? The best option I have for this turn is giving them a Clefairy. Putting damage on that Clefairy. And then hoping that they don't really have a way out of this Mega Starmie. If they have another Ignition Energy, then that's game. I'll concede that. But unless they have Boss, then they don't have game. Because they'll Boss the Gourgeist up and then knock out one of the Phantumps on the bench. So... Because really, we're trying to take all 3 prizes with this KO, and if they run away, they would have to use one of the They would have to use their attachment for turn just to retreat. Actually, you know what? I just realized the math here. They can 20, 20, or 60 here and knock out this game. So I really didn't have really much options this turn. They're taking 3 prizes because of how they positioned their... Okay, they got the Dusclops, which is the math. because they didn't have an energy here. So they're going to move 30 damage from this to here, which will put it within range for a Jet Blow knockout. They can also Curse Blast and do the same thing. Yeah. So, a very hard-fought match against this Mega Starmie. We just weren't able to really put the gas on when we needed to. Prizing was a part of the story of this match, which I hate to say prizing is the reason why we lost. I mean, we had one Gourgeist that we were kind of playing with for the first part of the game. So, yeah, that's game. Just enough to get the math, like, to the number on both of them. Oh, that's frustrating, but it was a good match. Good fun match against Starmie, which is one of the best decks in format right now. So, it is what it is. We'll jump into a match and see how we do. Alright, so we're going first. Looks like we're facing off against a Mega Lucario deck. So we'll throw Risky Ruins down. We will put a Telepathic into play here. Put one of each since we have evolutions in the hand there. Let's Poké Pad for a Dunsparce. Put that into play just in case we need to use it next turn. You know what? I'll go a little risky here. We have two more in deck. I'll grab another Dunsparce here. That way we have multiple options, and then we can Wondrous Patch onto the other Pumpkaboo. That way we have two different Pumpkaboos set up for next turn. Yes, discarding that Telepathic energy is a little risky, but I really think that just the Telepathic really is just a Pokemon Accelerator card in the deck. Yes, it is an energy attachment. We run 4. I'm not too concerned. We have 4 damage on 4 damage Pokemon. We have the Lillie. We have the 2 evolutions. So I think we're fairly safe. We're facing off a deck that doesn't prey on the bench, so that's a positive. And we're probably losing this Pumpkaboo this turn. That's why we set up the other Pumpkaboo, just so we can do that. No, they just went with it. Okay, so let's start getting pieces put together here. I love this Trevenant in this deck. I love the combination of the Gourgeist Trevenant combo. I think there is synergy with it all. But also, we're just getting pieces like crazy right now. That's awesome. Let's put down another Pumpkaboo. That way we have 3 primary attackers. And then I'm going to put an energy in the Trevenant. The Overwhelming Pain is helpful with the Ruin sticking. But with that, let's Horrifying Rondo. We could have put the energy here and done the Ghostly Touch to discard a card from hand, but I don't think that really was as important as potentially setting up a third attacker in this matchup. The weakness is by far our greatest strength here, and just being able to set up turn 2 going first. Like, our opponent allowed us to go first, which is amazing, and he just concedes. Our opponent saw that our board is set up. We were able to get really aggressive in that matchup regardless of the weakness, and we just kind of overwhelmed our opponent there. Alright, going second, I'm going to put the Dunsparce down just purely out of donk worrisome. And we're facing off against a grass deck. Looks like it's going to be a Hydrapple deck, who just gave us a whole bunch of mulligans. So, this is going to be an interesting matchup. And I'm not going to put any of these down. I'm going to hope that I can get a Risky Ruin off the top deck. Other than that, like, we have all the other pieces. We just don't have Risky Ruins. So if we have to, we can Phantump and use Phantump's ability to put damage on itself. And then obviously the Dunsparce was going to get turned into a Dudunsparce anyway. so that damage was never really going to stay on the board. But our opponent is having a great turn 1 going first, getting all the pieces of a beginning of what a Meganium deck really wants, especially with that Hydrapple getting an energy and the teal desk. Okay, so we are going to be playing a very interesting game here. So I am going to try this. We're just going to try to put our Trevenants into play this game and try to get the damage that way. And then I'm just going to give them a Dunsparce here and kind of just set up that way. The hand, if we had a supporter, this would have been a lot better, but we don't. So we'll see what they do this turn, because they have a Chikorita in the active. So like they have to get that out of the active first, which isn't hard. They attach retreat and they have a teal mask kind of set up. They have this Applin that's kind of scaring me a little bit. Poké Pad, okay, so it looks like they may be trying to build. Nope, they're building up their primary attacker, as they should. But if they have no Meganium, then that's going to be a little harder for them to kind of hit their numbers. Okay, so they're giving up the active Chikorita. Okay. But the problem is, we really don't have a way to do much else this turn. I am going to go a very interesting route here. I'm going to keep that energy there. And we're going to put up this Gourgeist. Hope that they just don't pop off this turn. And then I'm going to do the Ghostly Touch here and try to shrink their hand down. Because we only have that option. Now, they could, and they probably... My concern right now is this teal mask, more than anything else. Okay, so they're retreating into the teal mask here. I think they're thinking they have the KO. I kind of want them to try to overextend their hand a little bit, if I can survive that damage. And then see what we can do. Oh no, are they going to put the Festival lead up and try to attack twice? Or they have the evolution in here? They have the Ultra Ball, so they effectively have the evolution in hand. Okay, so that puts us in a pickle. They're gonna just use the ability just to put the energy there. Yeah, they're gonna... How much damage they doing? I guess the question is, if they don't knock us out and they have this hand size, I want to really try to hamper them. But it looks like they have enough to KO. I'm looking at their board state. Without the Meganium, I think it's enough for the 270. No, it's not. Okay, so we have a turn to kind of just wiggle our way out. We're not going to be able to do much else, but we can do something here. So I want to Ghostly Touch and just take a card out of their hand. I have no real other option. And we take away that Lillie. That actually is very, very good. Now, they still have other ways to accelerate, as long as they have energy in hand. And there's the Judge. Okay, honestly, judging us to another 4 cards here, I'm not upset. Not upset at all. Because we have a Dudunsparce here. We can evolve, which gives us 180, which is 20 shy. I need them to put another teal mask into play. But I don't think they're going to overextend that way. But we have draw, we have another backup attacker here. They're doing 5-10. They're one-shotting everything. But they are close to one-shotting everything prior to the bonus here. So this Meganium isn't really fixing anything. So we have turns. So let's run away draw. Let's draw 3 cards here. Let's see what we can kind of get out of this. Colress Tenacity does not really help. But we can grab those 2. That puts damage on the board for future attacks there. And with this Colress Tenacity, I'm still... I want to just pull cards out. Again, this is all about thinning this turn. Again, this is a wiggle our way out of a situation kind of thing. So we're doing 180. We're doing just shy. It's 20 shy. Or 10 shy. Sorry, I can't do math. And they really don't have another attacker. I mean, they have the teal masks. But the 210's not an issue once we get this Phantump up and running. And they just drop the forest like nothing. Okay. They have what they need, and they got a Lillie. Like this, our opponent cooking. I hate to see it go against me, but I love to see it sometimes. I love this type of deck. We profiled this type of deck a couple months ago on the channel, and it's just gotten better with rotation, in my opinion. So they're just, yeah, they just like, yeah, we just need 1 turn of the Vitality. You can bump it next turn, no big deal. They're gonna knock us out. They have a backup attacker. We have no real way to knock out. They take 6 prizes before they take 2 more of ours, so if they would have, again, order of operations, I think they played that turn perfectly against us here. But we are going to force them into like a weird prize trade situation with us here. So what I want to do is that we're going to grab a Trevenant here. I am going to use the ability here to evolve to put some damage on the board just out of abundance caution. Going to do the Risky Ruins. Bump their stadium. They clearly don't need it because of what they've done. But we're going to do that. And we're going to mumble, take the 2 prizes with a single Phantump. Which may not be a lot. It really isn't in this match. Like, kudos to them to how they played this. How the deck is just running for them. We have an Ultra Ball, which will allow us to grab a Phantump. If we can get a boss to take out a Teal Mask, that would be fantastic. And maybe with us just eliminating energy off their board, that would be our win con. But we need damage at least on 1 more. We have that open bench slot, and we just got judged. I'm not upset with that really, because it allows us to put damage on something. And they're just healing. They just heal the Risky Ruins damage. So honestly, we have nothing to go but go for broke on this turn, depending on what this top deck is. And it's a boss, but that doesn't help us. Because we missed the evolution. Now the question is here, yeah, with the abilities in play, like, we really can't do much. So I'm gonna concede. I'm gonna give our opponent the flowers. They've done a really good job. We had the boss, and the boss to the Teal Mask with the evolution would have been perfect. But our opponent played that beautifully. Played that deck to the T. So kudos to our opponent there, and there's nothing we could have done. Okay, so we're leading with Dunsparce here. Not the greatest lead, but we have options here in our hand. And we're facing against Crustle, which, believe it or not, we don't have much of an issue against. So we just have to go into the alternate strategy here, which is the Trevenant line. So I'm just gonna start putting pieces in place here. End turn, and then really all we need next turn, we have a Poké Pad, so we can Poké Pad onto the bench here, and then we can switch depending on what our opponent does. But I haven't seen Crustle on the ladder in a while, so this is going to be a fun little match. We're not going to really be able to focus with the Gourgeist in this matchup, and once we get our Pokemon to be Trevenant, they don't have abilities, so the Frostlass is not an issue. So we just have to be very smart on how we play. So we see the Crustle this turn, and what we can do is when we see it, this is supposed to be a Crustle, there we go. Come on, live, like, show me stuff on the evolution there. Okay, not an awful start here. So let's runaway draw first. Okay. I guess we're gonna have to runaway draw twice because we have the Ultra Ball in hand. I just need to get that energy. I really want to start this turn of not being able to allow Crustle to start getting energy in their hand. So we're gonna just start doing this here, and we have to make sure we get as many as we can evolved up so they just don't start getting pinged to death. So we're just kind of being not risky, but we're just going to be very much a slow play, slow burn approach here. Yeah, I don't really want to put the Risky Ruins down this turn, but I kind of do because then it'll actually start adding up on the Crustle there. Actually, no, I'm gonna leave it be. We're gonna Cursed Roots there, and we're just gonna force the energy to go somewhere else. Yes, we just put 30 and then the Monkey Dory does 30. So we will eventually have to start doing the Overwhelming Pain in some degree. But that's really something that we have to kind of just slowly build to. Because that's my concern, really. This is a very interesting matchup. We kind of have to avoid Gourgeist unless our opponent just runs out of Crustles. And our opponent is putting up one Phantump. Okay. So again, forcing us to find that evolution. And then they don't have the energy either. What sucks now is that we just have to end turn. We're in a bad spot ourselves. Now the Overwhelming Pain will add up unless they can start moving these damage. Like, they're really gonna have to get the Darkness energies or the Prism energies into play like quick. Mist energy, so that's gonna slow us down a little bit. But with this damage, soon, like, Overwhelming Pain is gonna be online. What I think I'm going to do here, so again, I only see one Crustle on the play. So we're gonna start kind of poking and doing what we need to do, I guess. Not feeling the greatest with this combo, but the Freezing Shroud really is doing us the most work. But once we just have to make sure these cards do not turn into pieces for that Monkey Dory. So, okay, we are now in... I don't even know if we're in trouble. I think they just did us a favor. I really think they just did us a favor here. So we're going to promote the one with energy. And if we get... Okay. I think we're about... to turn things on. I'm just gonna get a Gourgeist set up for everything else. And we're just gonna Overwhelming Pain, take out the Crustle, take out these energies. We have nothing on our side that has abilities. So now, with the bosses in hand, we start taking down these Monkey Dories. And we can. The Overwhelming Pain is just doing us favors. And we have damage on our bench, so we can use a Gourgeist if we have to. I think we got very lucky on the fact that our opponent kind of stalled a little bit on the Crustle. And we're getting very lucky that we're not seeing energy getting put on the Monkey Dory. Like, let's not ignore that piece. But that Freezing Shroud is just stacking really, really quickly. So I am honestly in a very okay spot here of just taking out one of them. They die in between turns to the Freezing Shroud, so it doesn't turn on any Pheasantipity if they even have one. And we have an attacker in the active. We got very lucky we had the energy in hand, by the way. And we're kind of just slowly overtaking this match. By no means is this a masterclass of how this deck is going to be, but that's why we put the Trevenant in here. The Trevenant has that utility to do a whole bunch of fun, interesting attacks. Them putting on the Hero's Cape on there doesn't really hurt much. Doesn't fix anything. We have the boss in hand. We're going to take that. So 210 with the damage on their side of the board, like, I'm not afraid. I'm really not, to be honest with you. They're just adding for us. And they're just really trying to focus on this Crustle, or the Dwebble that will be a Crustle. But I am more than okay of just taking out their Monkey Dories right now. Because the Monkey Dory with a whole bunch of health on it is really my biggest concern. So I'm going to put damage on there. Freezing Shroud's going to put more damage on their board state. And of our attack, they can't attach to that Monkey Dory. So it's just going to slowly just die. Double Mist Energy on here. They're really trying to make sure this Crustle does something. Double Freezing Shroud just accelerates the damage onto their board. I don't know if they really have a plan. But I'm just going to refresh our hand. I want to try to get some more energy. I think we're fine for now. Like, yeah, we could Ultra Ball for a Gourgeist, but I don't know if that's really worth it. So we're just gonna do another Cursed Roots. And then going into our turn, unless they, out of the two cards in hand, they're gonna see if one of them's Darkness Energy. That monkey is dying in the turn to us. And he can't attach to this, so they're hoping to attach to that. So yeah, they concede. We just kind of put them in a very slow death by 1,000 cuts kind of position. They are playing, their deck probably didn't help them at all in that match either, to be 100% honest, but we had the answer of Trevenant. Reason why we put Trevenant compared to any other attacker is to help with those weird matchups like the Crustle. So, very fun. Probably not the most exciting match, but it was a very much a chess match type of match. So, like I said in the intro, thank you so much for making it this far into the video. The deck list will be in the description of the video. And in the comment section, guys, let us know of other deck ideas that you want us to do. Just the other day, someone recommended the Slow King deck, which has been on our list for the longest time. We just wanted to showcase cards from Chaos Rising first before we showcase decks that got better with Chaos Rising, and the Slow King deck is definitely one of them. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to bounce. I'm going to go back into the lab and see what other decks we can come up with, and I hope you guys enjoy your day, and as always, have fun playing those sneaky decks.